Good morning, all. I know we have some people filing in. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're all having a good day so far. My name is Carly, for those who I haven't yet met. I'd like to welcome you all to our Rhyze Up education session. Nice to see you. I am the program manager for Rhyze Up, if you weren't aware. And I wanted to let you know, as we get going here, that did you know that since the beginning of our Rhyze Up program in 2019, we've had over 170 amazing, innovative women-led or founded companies take part in the program. So today we're glad to have Boundless clients, alumni, and some mentors joining in on our call. With me today, we have Naseem Al-Nahari. Her name is Boundless Accelerator in the window. She is our administrative assistant. She will be keeping an eye on the chat and is here to help with the technical side of things. So thank you so much, Naseem, for your help today. If you do have any issues or questions, feel free to type in the chat. We'll keep an eye on that for you. So for your information, we are recording this event, and we will share the session, the slides, and all of the resources with you afterwards. To be more accessible, you have the option of turning on Zoom's closed captioning feature, which can be turned on using the button on the bottom of your screen in Zoom. We'll also be providing a French captioned version of the session after it's been recorded as well. As we gather from across different parts of the world today, let us take time to reflect on our privilege to live in the work on the lands that we do. I'm joining you today from Guelph, Ontario, a city built over rich Indigenous histories. We are guests here, and we should reflect upon the responsibility to care for this land, the people who live here today, and the generations to come. If our actions today can move us towards reconciliation, we should pause and make those decisions with intention and with gratitude. This place that we call Guelph has served as traditional lands and a place of refuge for many peoples over time, but more specifically, the Adnyawandarak, the Haudenosaunee peoples. This land is held as the treaty lands and the territories with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Guelph lies directly adjacent to the Haldimand Tract and is part of a long-established tradition hunting ground for the Six Nations of the Grand River. Many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people who have come across Turtle Island call Guelph home today. So here at Boundless Accelerator, we work to support businesses to start, grow, and thrive in Guelph, the surrounding communities, and across Canada. So if you're a company looking for additional support, or if you know someone else, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to have that chat with them. So today, we would like to give a special thank you to our Rhyze Up program funder, the National Research Council of Canada Industrial Research Assistance Program, NRC IRAP. They enable us to provide this program to our companies and put on these types of events. So thank you to IRAP for their continued support with the program. I would also like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, Danby, Synergetics, and Invest in Guelph. We are grateful for their generosity and support in everything that we do at Boundless Accelerator. We have a full agenda today. So we are going to start with some program highlights that I'll share. We'll move on to our first educational session. We'll have a break midway through with some optional networking through breakout rooms. We'll have some next steps and resources for those on the call, and then we'll have our second educational session. So to start, I wanted to share a few ways with how the Rhyze Up program has supported companies over this past year and its impact. So a couple of stats for you on the call here. So through the program this year, we've supported 32 different companies through a deep dive or a discovery. 22 of those companies have also done a hands-on project with us where we were able to give them that support through the challenges that they were having. 30 of those companies also received customized leadership coaching with a certified leadership coach. And throughout their time in the program, companies, those 32 companies, have had over 36 new employees hired during their time, 29 new products, new processes, and services created, and 12 new domestic and foreign markets entered. So really cool stats to see just in that short period of time since April, where our companies have come from. Also want to give a shout out to some of our companies that have partaken in our program this year. So we have 32 companies, as I mentioned. So this is the first 16. So for those on the call from those companies, giving you a round of applause, a virtual wave and high five to those 16 companies. And then we also have the other 16. So congratulations to those who have partaken in the program. We really look forward to seeing what you do next. So I wanted to share those logos with you. A couple other highlights to share with you. Since we started Rhyze Up back in 2019, we entered 4 provinces to begin with. And this year alone, we've worked with 8 different provinces. So cool that we have a national program where we are able to support companies across the country and continue to grow that. This year, for example, it was our first time receiving an application from one of the territories, which was really exciting. And we were able to work with all of these different provinces within this fiscal alone. So if you know of any women or non-binary companies in Canada who are scaling and generating 200,000 in revenue or more that you think might be a fit for a program and you want to spread the word, please send them our way. We would be happy to have a conversation with them. So we will move on to our first education session of the day. This is building an inclusive culture for profitability. And I would like to introduce our facilitator for the day. So it is my pleasure to welcome Seun Adetunji to take us through how to build an inclusive culture for profitability in your business. A little bit about Seun. They are the founder of MedInclude, a medtech startup that helps patients better understand medical information. Prior to starting MedInclude, she helped design teams at Shopify embed the principles of DEI into Shopify's products and services. Seun brings her experience across the tech, education, and healthcare sectors to bear on DEI topics. Seun has a master's in international law and a master's in business, entrepreneurship, and technology from the University of Waterloo. Now, Seun, I'll stop sharing my slides and I will turn over the share screen to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Kylie. Hello, everyone. So lovely to be here with you today. Thank you for sharing some of your time. My name is Seun, like Kylie mentioned, founder of MedInclude. So that means I'm a founder like a lot of you. I also see some familiar faces on the screen. Good to see you all again. One of them, my own advisor as well, Irida. Today, we'll be talking about inclusive culture and building that for your businesses as a founder. Before I go ahead, I'm just going to do a quick check and be sure that you can see my screen up. Fantastic. Great. Okay. Quick land acknowledgement before we get into the session. I'd love to acknowledge that I'm calling in from the traditional lands of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples, land that is now called Waterloo, Ontario. I'm really blessed and privileged to live on this beautiful land that supports life and community and love and fellowship. I want to acknowledge that Indigenous peoples have always been entrepreneurial. They have always built and continue to build businesses across Canada that contribute to the success that is Canada today. Indigenous peoples continue to face discrimination across different areas and facets of their lives, whether that is in healthcare, in education, in just about any facet of life that you can think of. As founders and entrepreneurs and innovators, we have a unique opportunity to embed inclusion and Indigenous reconciliation in the way that we think of our solutions, of the products and services that we build. And I invite you today to continue to explore, relearn, unlearn what you think you know or what you already know about Indigenous history, Indigenous culture, values, and to continue to educate yourself to better embrace what it means to be Indigenous within Canada and outside of Canada, around the globe as well. Okay. So our session today is on building an inclusive culture for profitability. But what exactly does that mean in the context of a startup that's either starting out afresh or that's trying to scale? Well, a few things that I'd like for us to eat on as part of our session today. I'd like us to discuss the link between inclusion, performance, and profitability. We'll also talk about and review how to leverage diversity and inclusion to achieve better business results. We'll identify elements of what an inclusive workplace looks like and how to achieve those, and then would explore some strategies to foster an inclusive culture. I like to pause at this point during my sessions to say, this session is very much about you, even much more about you than it is about me. You're going to get the slides afterwards. So the focus is not the content that you see up on your screen. The value really is in how relevant this conversation is to your business. And so I've been known in the past to put aside my slides and actually have a meaningful conversation with participants. So if there's any questions that come to mind for you as we go through the session, comments, thoughts, I encourage you to stop me at any point in time and make this as relevant to you as possible. You're already spending your time here. You might as well get your time's worth. And the way to do that is to think of this conversation in the context of your business, and then think of what, questions, thoughts, roadblocks you might come up against as you try to implement or embed these principles within your business. And then let's have a chat about it. So the slides are secondary to the conversations that we will have, I hope. So feel free to stop me at any point in time. But these are the objectives that we're aiming for today. And by the end of today's session, my hope is that you will better understand inclusion as a driver for innovation. You'll be able to identify what an inclusive workplace looks like and put that side by side in contrast with your own business to understand where you might have opportunities. You learn some strategies and tools to build a more inclusive business. And we'll also work together to develop some action steps and next steps for you to take for your business. So if you've not already, gotten that sense yet, I can be very engaging during my sessions. And so I'll take a pause here and check in with you all to say, what does an inclusive workplace mean to you? If, you think back to workplaces or work cultures that you've thought were inclusive in your past experience, what stood out to you? What made them inclusive? What made you feel like you were included or that you belonged in those spaces? I'll turn it over to you, and we'd just love to hear what you think about inclusive workplaces and what they look like to you.
Tara here said, a place where everyone is welcome, heard, and valued.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tara. Well, Tara, I think you summed it up pretty nicely. It is indeed a place where, the culture embraces everyone, irrespective of their identity, whatever dimensions of identity they possess, irrespective of their lived experience, irrespective of their background and whatnot. An inclusive workplace culture is one where employees feel like they can contribute meaningfully to the work environment. It's one where employees and colleagues feel like they can safely be themselves in the context of work. I know sometimes we hear a lot about bringing your full self to work and, being your authentic self. I personally think that bringing all of yourself to work, everyone, every time bringing all of themselves to work, maybe might not be what we want, because there is different facets of each of our personalities. But the whole idea is that within the workplace, you feel comfortable, you feel safe enough that you're able to present yourself formally without, for instance, needing to code switch, without feeling like you need to watch your words because you don't know how they might be perceived by your colleague or by your team lead or other partners within your business. It really is that environment that encourages and embeds within its own principles, encourages and embeds inclusion, diversity, and equity. And so, Tara, I think that was a great summary that you shared with us. Thank you for sharing that. Now, there are a couple different things that come to mind when we think of inclusive workplaces and, why they're beneficial, why they're needed for business. I'm sure none of this is new to you, but there's several research over the course of the past few years on this particular topic that highlights the different ways that inclusive workplaces breed and encourage all of these benefits that you see up on the screen. So when you speak to collaboration specifically, for instance, in situations and workplaces where colleagues and teammates feel that they can safely share their thoughts, share their perspectives, and share their own opinions and suggestions around the problems or the solutions that a business is working on. Those workplaces have been seen to breed more innovation, right? When there's diversity, there's a difference of opinions in a lot of cases, and it is in that rubbing together of difference and in those tense conversations that creativity starts to come up as you walk through and think of the different ways to solve, mitigate your differences. Right, as you think of the different ways to work together, those teams have been shown to become a more innovative, more collaborative in doing so. In some of the resources that I will share with you after our session together, you see a bunch of research and case studies and examples from McKinsey and BCG and Harvard Business School that have done a deep dive into what inclusion and diversity can mean for businesses as they think of working together across different lines of understanding and different backgrounds and perspectives. And, beyond just collaboration, innovation, there's also recruitment and retention. Teams that are more inclusive. I mean, think to your own experiences, even as founders within an accelerator. Speaking for myself, I know that I'm part of a few different incubators and accelerators. And the honest truth is, I engage with some of them more than I do with some others. And it's not because they all don't have great programming. In some cases, there's also beyond the programming a question of how the delivery, how the environment, how the practices and processes help or not the clients, the customers, in this case for your business, the teams that you're trying to build. When you think of that and layer it onto recruitment and retention and what that could mean for your business, you start to see how workplaces and cultures and environments that breed and encourage inclusion can also lead to retention. As an individual, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel like you're trusted or that your expertise is appreciated within the context of a workplace, or automatically your experience is, not the best that it could be. And then you become discouraged, frustrated with the work, unhappy. And that's how businesses start to churn employees and have turnarounds over and over again. And of course, that also leads to and can impact customer satisfaction, right? If your business is not healthy internally, it can easily seep externally into the way that you service your clients and your customers, into the way that you build your products and your services. If your employees are not happy and encouraged, that can impact what they're building, how they're communicating, working together, and whatnot. And ultimately, profitability can be impacted. That's something that we want to protect as much as possible, is the revenue generation profitability impact that our business innovation and solution continue to have within our environment and communities. And so inclusive workplaces are essential for success. It's not an emotional decision or conversation. That can be an add-on if you so wish. However, thinking strategically from a business point of view, from a data point and a numbers point of view, there's huge benefit to ensuring that your workplace is inclusive across all dimensions of diversity. We can have a whole other conversation around inclusion for what, or about what, or inclusion on what dimensions. The rule of thumb is, if you're building baseline systems that are equitable to one group of people, it would, or it should, translate across several groups as well. So, just to summarize that bit of what inclusion might look like, or inclusion to what are you including, it really is about building foundations that can support individuals across dimensions of diversity. Okay, so a lot of talk. I'll pause again and check in with you to say any questions, comments, or thoughts before we go into what actually makes a workplace inclusive. Okay. So what does this mean in practice, right? Inclusive workplaces are good, great. I want to assume that, you agree with that. But what does that mean in practical terms? What should we be looking out for? What should we be doing when we're thinking about inclusive workplaces and how to make our own businesses one? This is a nice image from the Academy to Innovate in HR that really encapsulates the different areas and ways that we can build inclusion within the workplace culture. I'll do a quick wrap around them, and then the next or the activity that would go into in a bit is really deep diving into each of, or at least 3 of these for each individual business, and thinking of how that can be executed and translated for your own organization. But to speak to this quickly, these 8 dimensions up on the screen really are the core areas that encapsulate and capture the different ways that inclusion can be embedded within a business. We can further chunk this down into multiple bits. However, if you were to work on this 8 as an overarching set of principles, you should be really close if you don't already get to an organization or a workplace culture that is inclusive for all. Trust. Trust really is speaking to giving employees, colleagues, the partners that you work with, the feeling and the understanding that you appreciate, understand, and trust in their experiences. You trust in their capacity to do their work and to deliver on the job that they've been hired to do. This can manifest in a couple different ways. It could mean trusting them to deliver on set goals as at when due, and not, what some might call micromanaging, not checking in every 2 hours, and giving them the agency to reach out to you if they need help along, any point during the scheduled workflow. But really trusting in them to deliver on set objectives, set goals as agreed. That's one way that it could manifest. Trust could also manifest in inclusion into decision making, right? So if as a business owner, you're thinking of ways and encouraging ways that teams and teammates outside of your leadership team, your team members can contribute suggestions, opinions to the workflow, to the tactics and strategies that you're building. That's one way that trust manifests as well. It could also manifest in you sharing the long-term vision of the business with the group. If you trust your team to help you carry forth that vision, then that's also one way that you're manifesting trust and building an environment where your colleagues, your teammates, and employees feel like they really belong. There's also common purpose and meaningful work. And, that's how do you connect the work of an individual contributor to the overarching goal of the business? Do your team members understand the impact that their daily tasks have on the overall goal that you're trying to achieve? If you're trying to change the way that snacking happens around the world, do your team members understand how their day-to-day activities impact that? If you're trying to change a gaming and puzzling, Ashley, I see you there. If you're trying to change how kids interact with puzzles and whatnot, do your team members know how their daily tasks ladder up into that overall vision? So helping to create meaningful work and purpose across all layers of your team, not just at the leadership level. And then cultural competence is, how do your team members interact and relate with each other beyond their individual understanding of, deadlines and workflows? How do they interact on an individual and personal level? Do you understand how to create team social events, for instance, that are cognizant and conscious of the different lived experiences of your team members. So for instance, we're in the month of Ramadan, many team members across businesses observe Ramadan and fast from dusk to dawn or dawn to dusk during this month. If you're planning team social activities and whatnot, are you taking that into consideration and being aware of, the living experiences of your team members? Appreciation, how are you showing that across your teams? Are you encouraging the behaviors that you want to persevere within your team? Are you acknowledging the habits that you want to build within your team culture, right? And discouraging those that you don't want to continue to breed within your organization. Equitable reward and recognition is also really important. As founders, you carry the vision of what you want to build and how, the world, you would like for the world to be within your sector in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And that's really great. But a tree does not make a forest, and you alone cannot achieve by yourself the results that you're aiming for. And so the question then becomes, how do you build recognition into your team culture such that your colleagues and teammates who are supporting you to execute on that vision feel like they're also, they have a stake in what you're building, and it doesn't all boil down to stock options. It doesn't all boil down to equity and financial reward. There are many other ways that you can creatively encourage, reward, and recognize the work and contribution of your team members, your colleagues, your partners as well. What kind of access to opportunities are you building? In this session, for instance, and some of the other educational pieces that you have access to as a founder, are you sharing that with your teammates? If you think that there's a design session or a AI ML session that Boundless is organizing that could benefit your tech team or your designer, are you sharing those opportunities with them? That's also access to opportunity to upskill their own individual skill sets. It will ultimately benefit your business because you're getting experience, but you also help the employee to feel thought of as an individual and help them to feel more included in your business. Of course, sense of belonging and respect as well. All of these can intertwine and touch on each other in different ways, but ultimately looking at these different facets of an inclusive workplace, you can, I was going to say easily, but it might not be as intuitive as I think it is. But I think that when you look at your business, right from recruitment to the way that you manage evaluation processes and whatnot, there are many opportunities to ladder and layer these principles within all of the processes and procedures that you currently have to ensure that you're breeding and building from the ground up a culture that is inclusive of all employees that come across your organization and work with you. So we'll go to this activity that I mentioned. Before I explain what we're doing here, I'll take a quick pause again and check in with you folks, see if you have any questions, comments, any thoughts coming to you as you listen to this and think of your own businesses. Please feel free again to unmute yourself and share, or share in the chat box.
We had a question. So when we look at maybe a business that wants to be more inclusive and include these new practices, how long would you say something like that really takes to implement and then to see some kind of measurable change?
That's a really great question, Carly. Now, there are different ways to look at this. What I would suggest is for a business that wants to implement this, to think of it in phases, right? So think of it and say, what are the low-hanging fruits that you can start to implement today to see results over the next 3 months? What are the midterm plans, initiatives, and programs that maybe you need to plan a bit more towards? Maybe you need to put some budget behind, you need some resource to drive, and plan to start those within the 6 months time frame, to then hopefully see some results over the following months after that, and then to have more long-term goals as well. In terms of outcomes, if this is done right, and by done right, I mean done in a way that is organic and not rushing to the answer. We see a lot of, and I'm sure you've all seen all of the backlash that we hear around diversity, equity, and inclusion in the news today, because organizations have, in my opinion, rushed to the final answer by implementing things like quotas or, diversity numbers. This is where we want to get to in 5 years, without doing the actual groundwork of building internally and also connecting organically with their community. So as a founder and business owner, my suggestion would be to have the fundamental understanding that change and the results that you want to see will not happen overnight. You would be doing your business and yourself a disservice if you jumped to the final answer that you want to see by doing things like implementing quotas on your business, or any of those quick wins. They're more slower paced, organic ways to embed these principles in your business. One of it would be policies and processes and procedures, and actually codifying what you want to see your business become into the way that you write your policies, because then it becomes part of the fabric of your organization. It's less subjective, less open to anybody's interpretation, what you want your business to be over the next 3, 6, 12 months. And then I'd say, if you were to start implementing some of this today, in 3 months, depending on what kind of initiatives they are, whether it is across recruitment, whether it is across compensation or performance evaluation, or even the way you design your solution and your products and services, depending on what area you're focusing on, I'd say by month 3, you should start to see some inkling of change if you were to implement some of those action steps today. But again, be conscious of what practical ways you're trying to execute this through, because relationships and building and embedding inclusion should not be rushed towards a final answer for external validation. It really should be, what is good for my business today, outside of all of the noise that's happening externally. It's sort of a roundabout way to answer your question.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So we'll move on to this individual work. What I'd like us to do at this point is to take 10 minutes and think of the different, and I'll go back to that previous slide if it helps, but think of 3 elements that you'd like to focus on for your business over the next 3 months, right? Remember 3 months being that time frame when you could start to see some inkling of change. So think of 3 elements from the previous slide. So trust, respect, and try to think of initiatives or action steps that you can take to implement and execute those elements and principles within your own business, and aim for 2 to 3 steps per element. So if you chose trust, for instance, how might you execute trust within your business, if that's what you want to focus on? And you can list things like, I want to share, I want to organize a town hall quarterly, once a quarter, with my team, where I share the state of the business. So how we're doing, how many customers we've gotten over the past 3 months, sort of similar to what Kali did actually at the start of the program, where you shared some stats about the Rhyze Up. That is one way for sure to build trust. Now I know all of that. Now I'm thinking of founders that I can recommend, the program to and whatnot. So do something similar for your business and pick 3 of those principles or elements that I shared in the previous slide, and then come up with 2 to 3 action steps per element to execute within your own business, right? If there are things that you're already doing that you want to reinforce, that's absolutely fine. You can focus on those. If there are net new elements that you'd like to work on, feel free to choose those as well, and then think of 3 action steps below them. So we'll have 10 minutes. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. How did that feel like? Any thoughts, questions, comments? What came to mind for folks as you walk through this?
Tara shared in the chat, transparency and honesty go a long way to building trust.
That is absolutely correct. Thank you, Tara. Transparency and, it definitely goes a long way. Communication does as well. And really sharing sometimes the context behind some leadership decision can be really helpful to build that sense of trust and even respect for your team members as well. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Tara. Anything else come to mind for folks? What 3 elements did you pick for your businesses? Anyone willing to share? So I walked through the exercise with you as well, and for my business, just if that helps to kick us off, I focused on cultural competence, equitable reward, and respect. Equitable reward, one of the things, what I've tried to do to also share with you is think of one more long-term initiative and then something that I can start to implement immediately. For equitable reward, one of the actions or initiatives that I'd like to do is to have a more unbiased performance evaluation process that is less subjective and less in my head as a founder. As founders, sometimes a lot of the processes for the business, especially for new startups, live in the founder's head, right? I know, I'm going to do this, I'm just going to do it. But as you start to grow your business and hire more, people, even if it's just periodic or contractual supports like interns or co-ops and whatnot, you want to begin to think of codifying those things that you've got in your head. So one of the ways that I'll be doing that is building or developing a performance evaluation and review process that is actually written down and is circulated and shared within the team so that everyone knows what's expected of you at what level to get to the next stage of your career within the organization, or to get a bonus at the end of the year versus it just living in my head. And then that way it's less subjective and less biased, and more equitable across the team. And then the other thing that I'll be setting up for equitable reward is setting up an employee stock option plan as a way to start to reward the people and colleagues that are actually building this vision and this solution and product with me, and help them to feel more included in the business beyond the more transactional monthly or bi-weekly compensation. So sort of a way to also for myself and for the business as well, get more commitment, which comes as a reward or as an output of them feeling included within the business. So those are two ways that I'll be executing on equitable reward. Yeah, and I do have two others that I did for cultural competence and respect, but I'll just check in with you folks and see if anyone is wanting to share.
Seun, Tyra also shared here. I also believe in feedback being important. So building one-on-one meetings or other ways to gain to this is important. And appreciation, not doing things only once in a while or for larger wins, but to say thanks for smaller wins, to sending personalized thank you notes, the little bits of appreciation that can help others feel appreciated or thanks for their ideas or collaboration.
Yeah, who wouldn't love a personalized thank you note? I know I would. Imagine getting that from your team lead or your manager or supervisor. I know that'd be really nice. And so that's absolutely those are great initiatives, Sarah. Thank you for sharing. Okay, anyone else? Any comments, questions, thoughts as you develop this for your business? I do have a list of, I didn't want to share that up front so that I give you space to be unbiased with my own thinking and do what's best for your business. But I do have a list of initiatives under each of these elements. And so I'll be sharing that after the session, just as some sort of cheat sheets that you can refer to get ideas from. And of course, feel free to tweak it to whatever works for your business. Yeah. And so you've done all of that. The question then becomes similar to what you were saying, Tara, Carly earlier, like, where does all this lead? Like, what then? What happens next? So sharing with you a few things to keep in mind as you implement and execute on those initiatives and action steps. How do you track what's happening? Is this working? Do we need to tweak something or modify some of our strategies? These are some metrics that you can build in from the get-go to analyze whether or not those initiatives are working. My suggestion would be, before you start to make changes, that you take note of where your business is at along all of these metrics. So in terms of retention rate, where's your business currently? You can do a quick a quick check with the information that you already have over the past 12 months. How many people have we hired? How many people have left? How many people did we let go and whatnot? You can do a quick employee satisfaction survey on Google Forms, 5 questions. How are you feeling? Do you have any feedback for us and whatnot? Just to set a baseline for yourself to evaluate against in 3 months, in 6 or 12 months. So employee satisfaction is one that can really give you a view on how your colleagues are feeling. You can anonymize to the extent that anonymization is doable for your business, because if you're a really small team of 5 or 3, then anonymizing might not make as much of a difference, but you can still anonymize, especially for larger businesses. Do a quick survey of what the satisfaction is like within your team. Take a quick number check of what dimensions of diversity are currently present within your team and within your leadership, right? And then as you implement some of these strategies and tactics and action plans that you've set aside along the principles that we talked about earlier, you can then review them over 3 months to start with and see what has changed. Has anything moved? Are we seeing some progress, or do we need to change tactics and modify the programs that we're doing? But it'd be absolutely important, is my suggestion to you, that you measure whatever it is you're implementing or you're trying to change or modify, because that's the one way that you can then be consciously aware of what's working and what might not be. So metrics to track there for you. And that is our time together today. Of course, I believe that Kali will share the slides with you. But just checking in with you. Any questions, comments, thoughts, anything specific to your business in the realm of inclusion that we've not spoken about today as well? I think we still have a few minutes before we're done. Feel free to ask, and I'd be happy to chat about it with you.
Feel free to unmute yourselves, folks, and ask Seun a question directly, or you can use the Zoom feature to raise your hand and we can call on you, as well as you put your questions in the chat. Really take advantage of Seun's individual support offer here. You can get some great advice from her while we're on the call here. Well, we might have some questions percolating. I did have a question of my own, Seun. So I was thinking about, as companies are growing and they're looking to hire more and grow their team, I'm wondering if you can give any suggestions on the kinds of questions you can ask in interviews to help your new hire understand your culture and make them feel included, so that they understand that it's going to be a good fit for them. Just kind of thinking about that retention and good fit piece, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Again, thank you, Kali. I would actually go a step back and say that you start that from the way that you frame your job description. And so in your job description, and a lot of, employees and folks today are becoming even more aware of those nuances within the tone or the words or the framing of job descriptions. So if you're looking at hiring for a role, are you, as part of your JD, actually highlighting what the must-have skills are versus the nice-to-haves? And are you highlighting the difference in the way that you write your job description? That framing alone signals to a candidate that this is an organization that is conscious about, inclusion and inclusion within their teams as well. There's also beyond the job description, the question of where are you posting your job? It's a whole chain of processes, even before you get to the interview questions is where are you posting your jobs, right? There's so many, depending on what kind of diversity you want within your team, what kind of representation you want within your team. There are many job platforms outside of the traditional LinkedIn and Indeed where you can specifically pull from within or across different dimensions of diversity. If you're looking specifically to appeal to more indigenous people because you're building a product that services or that supports indigenous living and you want more representation within your team, their job boards, their community organizations, their institutions that you can leverage to reach those communities outside of traditional LinkedIn's and Indeeds. And that is an additional signal to the candidate that if I find you here in this space, that signals to me that you're thinking consciously about inclusion within your team. Now, when you get to the interview, question itself, the questions themselves, if you ask, I had a client in the past that as part of their interview questions, actually as part from their job description, what they evolved to saying is asking if candidates have a basic understanding of diversity and inclusion, and saying that if not, there's opportunity to provide learning and resources within the organization. So asking it not from a place of you can't work here if you don't, but saying we do, whether you do or you don't, we do have opportunities within the organization for upskilling, training, resources on those topics. And so again, another signal to the candidate that this organization seriously, considers inclusion in their business. It also extends to who's on your interview panel, right? I encourage interviewers to have a basic learning around mitigating bias. We've all got bias. If you've got a brain, you've got a bias. But we need to be conscious of that in order to mitigate how it impacts our decision making real time. And so, you might find yourself, I've had a colleague who said to me they were interviewing someone for a role and the individual had a PhD. And they're like, there's no way they're going to stay in this role. I'm not going to even. And she caught herself and she said, wait a minute, I don't know that, but that's my bias, but if she wasn't aware that, we all have biases, it is natural, she might not have caught that bias in that moment. Now, what you do with it is another conversation, but the starting point is to understand as an interviewer that you have biases and they're going to come up during your conversations with the candidates. And, getting that foundational understanding can help you to then mitigate in your decision making so that you're making as much as possible objective and not subjective decisions. So I did a quick run through of that recruitment process there, and there's more to talk about, but yeah, definitely being overt about inclusion in your business can signal to candidates that you're thinking consciously of it as a business.
Thanks, Seun, for that. We do have some more time for questions as well. So I'll again open it up to the rest of you on the call to see if you'd like to ask Seun a question. Feel free to put it in the chat, or we can call on you if you raise your hand as well. We actually did have a question submitted ahead of time, Seun, if you'll indulge me. So one of the questions, it actually combined both of the topics we're going to be covering today. So both, building an inclusive culture and then also using AI tools. Curious if you have any insight around, can you use AI to build a more inclusive culture for profitability? Any experience with using artificial intelligence?
Interesting question. My startup, for folks that joined a little later, so I'm also a founder, like a lot of you, and my startup is in the health tech space. We're using AI to build a platform that simplifies medical jargon and translates for providers to better communicate with patients. So I'm pretty familiar with AI in that sense that it is the tool that I use in my work every day. To your question specifically, yes, I believe that we can, but there is no way that that would be possible using AI to build an inclusive culture if we're not involving human experience and human nuance. Because ultimately, artificial intelligence is a tool, and like every tool, it can be used any which way. It is designed to push to, as of today, we don't know what will happen in 10, 15, 20 years. As of today, artificial intelligence does not fully have a mind of its own and ultimately still relies on us as humans to drive it. And so building an inclusive culture with artificial intelligence is possible, but we still need human involvement. We need to think consciously of the data that we're building on, because garbage in, garbage out. If you leverage data that is polluted in whichever way, whether that is inaccurate, whether that is biased data, then the outputs obviously will be biased as well. And then the danger to that is that AI reinforces itself. And so unlike, humans, where you can catch yourself saying something that's not exactly right and then course correct, for AI, it retrains itself on its own data. And so that's where it can really get dangerous if we're not being conscious about what we're building, the way that we're using this tool. We were talking earlier before the session about the interviews where one particular organization is now doing pre-screen interviews with an AI interviewer. And I have an acquaintance who had applied to a job there, and they were like ranting, like no way this is happening. That can easily go one way or the other, because how do you convince AI that you're a good fit for the job, and how do you have that nuance in the conversations, right? So it's a really tricky space that we're in, as humans building this amazing technology, but also I don't think that we can get rid of the human nuance. Otherwise, our world will look pretty different pretty quickly if, we all just let it go to AI.
Makes sense. Just wanted to get your thought on that, because I was thinking when you're trying to plan for those actionable items in those areas of your business, right? When you talk about building that sense of belonging and trust and cultural competency, and what are your action steps for each of those points? I was wondering too, if you could use like AI tools to help you maybe with some of that planning and some of those like steps. So if you're trying to, schedule meetings, or you're trying to send out kudos, of course, you're still going to need a human element, but can you like use some of those AI tools to help you with that plan, right?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Fun fact, I used AI to build some of these slides. Yeah, I think it's the world that we're in. You have to use AI, you have to get on the train of understanding how it works. And so definitely use AI to generate some of those initial ideas if you'd like. And then again, the winning spot is infusing into it the fabric of your own business, what is actually relevant for your business. When you talk about inclusion, principles and diversity and whatnot, there are million and one things that you could be doing. There are million and one activities, initiatives. You're never going to have enough time, budget, resources to do all of it. There's also a million different ways that you could execute them. What is relevant for my business in health tech as a 3-year-old 8% organization might be totally different for what's relevant within the same context of inclusion for your business as a 25% $3 million generating a business. And so AI might not know as much as I hope that AI does not know as much as about your business as you do. And so when it does generate, some generic, instances for you that you go in, my hope is that you go in and then tweak, modify, update. It does the grunt work, and then you really put in the strategy as you want to see it. So absolutely, some of the tools that you would also use to set up those recurring things like, acknowledgements, kudo boards and whatnot, are leveraging AI as well. So yeah, there's lots that AI can do for us in the mix.
Wonderful. We'll see if there's any other questions for Seun. All right, no problem. Thank you so much, Seun, for taking us through how inclusivity can bring businesses more profit. I think I'm going to have to reflect on how to do more recurring practices into our own team here at Boundless, or within my own role with the work that I do with clients. So thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kali.
Wonderful. So as Seun mentioned, she has some resources that I have a copy of. We will be sending out her slides and the resources after our call, so likely tomorrow. So thank you again.
Absolutely.
All right. So moving on to the next part of our session today, we will pause now for roughly about a 35-minute break. So during this time, we are going to open up a couple breakout rooms if people would like to network with one another. So my colleague Naseem will set up some breakout rooms for us. You'll see a prompt to join some of those rooms. Optional, no pressure. Otherwise, feel free to stretch, grab some coffee, maybe some tea. And for those in the breakout rooms, we'll give you a 1-minute warning before we bring everyone back, just as a heads up. So we will now just pause the recording. So give me 1 second here. I didn't expect the little timer to go off there. All right, I am going to restart the recording here, Naseem. There we go. So welcome back. I hope that you had some fulsome discussions with your peers if you're in breakout rooms and have made some connections with one another. For those who are just joining us after the break, hello. I hope you had a chance to catch up on some emails or grab a snack, for example. All right, so for the next part of our session, we will be talking about resources and next steps. So this yearly Rhyze Up educational event is just one way that we stay connected to our program alumni. For those wrapping up the program right now, if you've not already received, everyone who did a project with us will be receiving an outcomes report summarizing the work to date and a list of possible next steps. So I'll be reaching out to everyone on the call, if I haven't already, to do an evaluation call and to talk about those next steps and to gather some feedback. So for the alumni joining us today, I wanted to mention that you can stay up to date with our newsletter and social media for the latest programs and offerings. So for example, we have a few programs that you might be interested in learning more about. So I wanted to talk about a couple programs that we offer here at Boundless, just to make sure that you're aware of all of the resources available to you. So one of the programs that we offer is called Fee for Service, also known as our Boundless Business Consulting. So this is our custom support from our executive level of mentors. It can be set up as something like a short-term project, or it could be an ongoing engagement. It's truly customizable depending on what your needs are. And it is open to any company in Canada. So if you're in Canada incorporated, you're welcome to take advantage of this Boundless fee-for-service consulting. And it's available at any time. So at any point, you can reach out to myself, or you can reach out to someone at the BA team and inquire about our fee-for-service offerings. So wanted to make sure that was available for you. So we can help you with, fractional CFO work. We can help you with sales planning, investment readiness, lots of different options for this Boundless Business Consulting. Feel free to ask me questions after the call. I'd be happy to chat with you about the consulting piece there. Another program that we offer here at Boundless is one of our flagship programs. It's known as our startup program. It is going through a bit of a revamp right now, so might not have the same name come the next month, but this program is for Ontario-based companies, so it is specific to Ontario, who are generating anywhere from 0 to up to $1 million in revenue. So the name, while it says startup, is open to companies who are doing up to $1 million in revenue. So this program is a great additional resource for companies who might be finishing up Rhyze Up and still want that touch point with their mentor. It's a combination of events, resources, monthly calls and education sessions, and mentorship for up to 3 hours per month, fully funded. So no cost to companies to take advantage of that mentorship. So a great kind of next step potentially for people who want to take advantage of continuing to work with their mentor that they worked with through Rhyze Up. Intake for this program specifically is quarterly. And as I mentioned, there's some changes coming to it. So it might be different from what you see right now on our website, but we'll be rolling out this program planning for an April start. So again, if you've got questions about the startup program, happy to also have a chat with you after today. Another program that I wanted to mention here that is very unique to us here at Boundless Accelerator is our Idea Fund. And that stands for Inclusivity, Diversion, Environment, and Accelerator. That's the acronym there for Idea Fund. It is a seed funding program. Again, just how we're funded, this program is specific to Southern Ontario companies. So the purpose of the program is to support companies who are driving sustainable and a circular economy growth. And we do that through matching seed funding, mentorship, and education. So right now we are running a cohort of our Idea Fund program, and we will be opening up our applications for the next cohort of the program in June 2025. So keep an eye on our website, stay up to what we're doing with our social media for more information about when intake will be available for our Idea Fund program. It's a very fantastic program here that we offer. I also want to talk about some other resources that you have available to you here at Boundless as an alumni client. So one of the things you might have heard of is we have perk partners. So these are open for both current clients and alumni clients. So I encourage you to check out our perk page on our website. So we have discounts for different partnerships. We have different things like freelancers, get IT support, influencer leads, marketing support. So you can check out that Perk Partners page and read up on the different offerings and the different discounts available to you as an alumni, as a BA client. Another resource that I'll mention too is we have a client directory, which is also on our website under resources. If you want to list your programs or services, you can do it on our website for no cost to you. So you can list information about your program at any time, your product or your service at any time, and be listed on our website for people to support you. The last thing I'll mention as well is we have partnered with an organization called nVenture to help provide flexible term sheets to women-led companies who are pre-qualified through us, through Boundless. So loans in their amount of $25,000 to $50,000. So there are specific eligibility for that loan, but it's a great opportunity to get funding into the hands of women-owned companies, such as those who might be joining us on the call, and kind of help cut down on some of that administrative red tape. So it's a very easy process in terms of applying, and Boundless helps you with that. So I'm happy to chat with any of those who are on the call to talk about, the perk pages or the programs or a client directory or the nVenture partnership. Please feel free to reach out to me after. Wonderful. So when we were doing a look in the ecosystem to figure out what topics were current and top of mind for our companies, what came out was artificial intelligence. Of course, it's a very popular topic right now. So it is now time for our second educational session of the day. So there was consensus that people wanted to learn more about artificial intelligence. So I listened to the people. So I'm happy to introduce you to our next facilitator, Morry Patoka. He is going to be leading us through artificial intelligence tools for your business. So I'd like to read you his bio. So from comedy writer to C-suite, Morry's storyline is filled with celebrated wins, learning moments, otherwise known as struggles, and surprising plot twists. He's built teams, fired teams, been fired, driven up valuations, raised funding rounds, acquired companies, led turnarounds, led a private equity firm, survived downturns, even survived an in-flight engine fire. Ooh. Morry's trusted consulting and business therapy has benefited companies from CPG to AI, pharma to food, retail to automotive, entertainment to government, and yeah, there's more. Through it all, his character remains true to his values. Tell it like it is, figure it out, make it happen, and whenever possible, do it to music. Morry's passion is to create the conditions for success. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'd like to welcome Morry to take us through his session. Thanks, Morry.
Well, thanks for the intro, and hi, everybody. I hope everybody is feeling awesome today on this first day to find out what the hell is going on with our tariffs and how we're going to do business. I've spent the morning on multiple calls with multiple clients. These are conversations that have been happening, for sort of the months leading up to the sort of the formal January 6th resurrection of the Trump administration. And there have been, little to no real tactical decisions that have been able to be made, because really nobody knows and understands what is going to be happening and what isn't going to be and what the implications are for them. And everybody feels like they're scrambling now, but by the same token, we're all trying to just figure it out and sort of make the decisions that make the most sense for us once we have more details. So I just wanted to get that elephant in the room mentioned, because it is something that everybody does need to be thinking very seriously about. And, this particular session is focused on AI and how are we going to use the available tools that are out there today, and many that are, in development and being launched almost as fast as Trump changes his mind. So there's lots of new cool stuff to be looking at. But it is also important that we keep in mind what the economy is doing. And in fact, although I'm not pointing out specific tools that are going to solve your problems with respect to what's happening, they are actually very useful in kind of examining and figuring out different approaches, different strategies, what are the implications and things like that. So during today's session, it's sort of open mic. I've asked that we don't close off anybody's access to kind of put up their hand and stop me at any point and ask questions. I wasn't planning on doing a ton of talking about the slides. So hopefully there's enough people joining us today that will be able to participate in conversation, share some of your ideas and what's happening, and then we will be able to kind of address them more particularly with respect to AI and what are some of those applications and tools that you can start to use right away. So the only ground rules are none. Enjoy it. Let's figure it out, and let's move on together, because really today is about exploring. There are 3 subjects based on input and feedback and my own experience working with a broad selection of companies. These are the 3 things that kind of mostly come up. How do I use AI to drive efficiency and growth for my company? What are some of those tools that we can use like right away, and like why? And then, the whole sort of concern about privacy, security, implementation. So we're going to touch on all 3 of those subjects. There is a takeaway on sort of the do's and don'ts and some of the different software that we'll talk about today. But feel free to jump in at any time. I think because I don't see you on my screen now because I need to look at my notes, just speak up, or Carly, let me know, and we'll address anything that comes up. So let's start with the buzz. What is really happening with AI? Is it going to replace all of our jobs? Is it just another trend? No, it isn't, by the way. And the truth is, it's nothing of the extreme, but it is a significant game changer. It is a societal game changer, and the full implication of what's going to happen and how this is going to play out will have really a lot to do with how much you and others like you and me learn how to use these tools and put them to work for us. It is still something that requires us as humans, as business people, as entrepreneurs, to apply intelligently and effectively to where the tools are needed the most. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What's real, what isn't, and let's start with the more exciting stuff. What's the hype? Well, few things that continually come up. AI is going to replace humans. We don't need customer service people anymore. It'll do all your marketing. In fact, it'll make all your decisions for you. The only problem is it takes a lot of money and big budgets, so big companies are the only ones that can really utilize it, and it's just complex. So the reality is not much of that is true. AI, I'm going to just go through some of these notes and we'll talk a little bit more broadly. AI absolutely makes us better at what we need to do. It can process amazing amounts of data. It can automate tasks. All of that is really designed to give us more knowledge, like us, the people, more insights, and more time so that we can do better, we can perform better, we can think smarter. It won't replace our customer service people. I'll have a couple of examples about why it won't. But it does enable our team members to be better prepared and well-equipped with the right information, the right options, and sometimes they even write the best strategies to build relationships with their customers, to serve their needs really effectively. Again, it's a tool. It's awesome for marketing. It helps us with personalization. There's a whole bunch of automation tools right through the market and sales process. So information alerts, reminders can move through the process, through your sales cycle more effectively. It can back it up with the right marketing to the right person at the right time. All stuff that used to take a lot of people to make happen very effectively. I'm always an advocate for this concept that businesses run on decisions. And it's those decisions that are going to make the difference between success and not success. So the great thing about utilizing AI is that it allows us to make decisions. It gives us what we need to support making a smarter decision and making it quicker because of how quickly it can serve up the information, insights, options, and implications that we need. But it is up to us to still shape the vision, refine the strategies for our company, establish and support the core values. That's not AI's job. That is your job as a leader to make sure that's happening. Whether you're using AI or not, you still have to do that for everybody in your company. AI in that respect is no different. The reality is that today, no matter what size of a business you are, no matter how much money you have, and being, for those of you that are in the sort of the startup early stage, there isn't a lot of money. The great news is that there are tons of tools that are available. And I think most of you are probably familiar with the general platforms that you can use for free as well. And in terms of complexity, the whole idea of AI is that it is built for plug and play. It's built for people like you and I who know what we're doing. We know our business, and what we want are tools to help us do other things so that we can spend, more quality time doing what we should be doing it faster, cheaper, just overall doing it better. Like the whole idea is to, think of AI even as a calculator. Like a calculator came and it made us more efficient. It didn't replace our accountants, but it certainly made everybody's work a lot easier and a lot more accurate. So AI, in a sense, is like that. It, can automate repetitive tasks. Its processing of data is amazing in terms of the volume it can do and how quickly it can do it. And then it can turn over that crunching of data and give us insights and allow us to focus on strategy, on creativity, on relationship building, and decision making. So there's a story about a law firm. There was a test done, I think it was in 2018. So they put AI up against a team of 20 corporate lawyers. And the competition was that they had to review 5 non-disclosure agreements. Now, all of us have signed NDAs, I'm sure, and there will be many, many more. I have no idea how many I've signed over the years, but each time I do make sure I read the details. We'll talk about reading the details in some upcoming sections, but they took this AI platform called Law Geeks, and they went up against these 20 corporate lawyers and said, look at these 5 NDAs and assess them for any risks or errors. So the human lawyers, they took an average of 92 minutes to complete the task. And I think, NDAs are not 30-page documents. So still, it's about an hour and a half of time to read through the detail, figure out the wording, make sure the risks are mitigated and everybody is going to be sort of treated fairly under the NDA agreement. So the lawyers at an hour and a half, their accuracy rate was 85%. And AI, it was 26 seconds and it had an accuracy rate of 94%. So it doesn't mean we don't need lawyers anymore. They're not going away. They're not going to become extinct. But it does demonstrate how powerful AI can be in assisting, in this case, legal teams to handle the tedious work. You know, reviews are exhausting because you got to kind of read every word, every phrase, and make sure it makes sense and translates to protect the parties involved in the agreement. Instead, our lawyers who can, you know, are smart and can be creative, they can focus on high value things like strategy, helping guidance and decision making. Like that's how we want to use AI in business. We don't want to replace anybody. We do want to work a lot smarter though. So I am curious to see if anybody has used AI and to, you know, kind of take on a task that used to spend too much time on that now you're doing a lot quicker than you used to. And I can't see anybody because of my screen right now, but please speak up if anybody's got an example or two to share. I think Denise or Ashley,
Yep.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, this is Denise. I am the CEO of Content Innovo. I use AI all the time, actually. I use it, you know, for when I'm creating presentations. If I just want to kind of gather information, I use it in the sales process for building like a first draft of a sales program. I use it for doing a first draft of sales emails, things like that. I just use it all the time, and I'm going to be using it more and more. I'm actually in marketing, so we use it some for that, but we recognize there are limits around that, which I'm sure you're going to get into. But absolutely, I use it to just make my job more efficient and to do some of those tasks, as you were saying, that require a lot of research, and I no longer need to do that. I can just rely on AI to do that for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And yes, we'll talk about some of those limitations and the things to watch out for. But, you know, like Denise said, being able to take care of, for lack of a prettier term, grunt work, that takes up hours out of your day and out of and could take up days within a project. We can use the tools to accelerate our time frame and really focus on what's most important. Anybody else have an example they want to share? I think Ashley,
Hi,
you
Morry.
turn your mic on. Hey, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I'm still in the playing stage. I haven't found an AI tool yet to replace something that I've needed to be done, but I've been playing with them in case I need something to be done. So much like the example you provided about the NDA, I heard about a new legal tool. So I tried it out just for fun with something I already had in place, like those standard boilerplate policies for your website, stuff like that. And it's amazing what it can create. So now I know in the future that that's where I'll go first and foremost. And I actually just literally this morning, a family member of mine who is a lawyer, they actually tried it out for, again, something really simple that they would otherwise, you know, have a junior lawyer do. And now they're just doing the review, which is great.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. You know, when ChatGPT came out, since we're talking about lawyers, a law firm that I've done work with, the CEO called me and he said, I just want to talk to you about this. He said, I can't use the language exactly that he used, but he felt that they were effed with ChatGPT coming out. And I'm like, why do you feel that way? He said, because I just tried it and, you know, it spit out a contract with these terms and it's actually pretty good. And I go, well, so that's awesome. So what you're really telling me is, well, first of all, does it deal with all the intricacies of what you might need from a particular contract for a specific requirement and specific parties that are involved. He goes, well, no. All of that, those are all the details that need to be thought through and worked out. I'm like, great. So you're saying that if your lawyers, of which I don't know how many hundreds work for him, you're saying that if they were able to use this tool effectively, or a tool like this effectively, then they could cut down the amount of time it takes to kind of put that stuff together, and then focus more on the intricacies that actually make the difference between a successful agreement and one that has holes or treats the parties unfairly. He's like, yeah, that's probably true. So that, the whole point is that initial reaction that he had was all about the hype, and didn't, take a breath and understand the reality is, how is it going to make us better, stronger, more effective, more profitable? And since then, he's got it all figured out. And there are many tools in the legal industry that are very specific. And so the large language models and small language models that are being used are actually trained specifically, and large law firms have them fine-tuned to their particular practice areas. So it just keeps getting better when you use it and think of it as a tool. Anyways, let's go on to what's next, which is why it actually matters. So I will talk about, I don't know who all is joining us today, so we'll talk about startups and early stage companies, as well as more mature companies. Feel free, again, if you have anything you want to share, or you got a question, just speak up. So when it comes to startups, sort of two key priorities are agility and growth. You just always got to be very light on your feet, because you don't know which way things are going to go and what's going to really take off for you. So often, the problem happens when you're trying to scale. There's only so many hours in a day. You don't have either enough staff, and you probably don't have the the resources to hire a bunch of more staff to get work done. So the glamorous lifestyle of the startup entrepreneur founder is chief cook, bottle washer, clean the bathrooms, do everything that you have to do in order to make this thing work. So that's where AI can certainly be of help, to step in and automate some time-consuming tasks like scheduling, responding to customer inquiries, even doing some financial forecasting, or at least helping you get Excel spreadsheets figured out, or formulas that you need to understand. And when it comes to marketing, as Denise had pointed out, now you can do a lot more work as a small business that would require an analyst or teams of analysts to kind of put together that research and analyze even customer behavior of your own from your own database. So ultimately, you don't want to have to guess what customers want when AI can help you analyze the information, the behaviors, do the segmentation for you, make sure that you get the right message to the right people at the right time. So I think we all know the experience of shopping on Amazon, where we start looking for something, and then it's suggesting similar items or things that would work based on other items that I have bought, or what others have done if they bought this product, what would be a good add-on for it. We're all on Netflix, I'm sure. Those recommendations about what you should watch next are based on your behavior. And there's a lot of smaller companies that are using these tools now, because they're accessible for us, to be able to implement those kind of, sophisticated executions at a fraction of the cost, and without a team of analysts working for you. So, the goal isn't, again, to remove the human element, but it is, to free up your time so you can focus on more high value activities. So you can use AI to understand behavior, refine your marketing, personalize your outreach, even develop and refine your products and services in alignment with what the market needs and what your customers are telling you it needs. Content generation is really helpful. Visually, text, video, audio. It can support you for marketing, sales, and all your branding. And certainly, just any kind of automation that reduces the amount of time that you're manually working is so key for solopreneurs and small teams who are trying to scale, trying to do more, but just there's a limit to how much time you have. So AI can help you in a lot of those areas, and we'll talk about some of those tools specifically. When it comes to early stage companies, efficiency in how you operate, trying to have some competitive edge is key, but ultimately for any small business, cash flow is usually king. So, there are tools that'll track revenue and expenses. They can even predict like trends and cash flow requirements. So you can kind of be prepared for slower periods. Again, AI isn't replacing your accountant, but it gives you insights and information that will help you make those smarter decisions. Here's an example. So it might not be where you would think AI fits in, but there's this bakery in Tokyo called the Green Patisserie. So they had a challenge in their business. Their stuff must be awesome because they would always have huge lineups to buy their fresh baked goods. But every product had to be manually rung up on the sales, and it was taking a lot of time, and customers weren't bothering because it was too much of a lineup, too much time wasted there. So they implemented this thing called Bakery Scan. So it's an AI-powered checkout system with cameras, and the camera would recognize the different types of pastries without any barcodes. It was developed by Brainco. It analyzes the shape, the color, and the texture of what it's looking at. And then it basically, customers just hold their tray under the camera. It gets identified through AI. The items are all priced in seconds, and customer pays and goes out. So in their analysis, checkout time was cut by 70%, which is huge. And their overall sales volume increased by 3 times because they could just run so many more people. The line moved so much faster, and people will go, not a problem. I'll definitely pick up something from there today. I wish I could, because man, I love those pastries. Anyways, this is just an example that AI is not for just big corporations. It is accessible to every industry, even ones that you might not expect. But few things to consider as an early stage company is how you can use AI to track your cash flow and predict revenue trends, and definitely assist with spreadsheets. So you understand more about what's happening instead of trying to run your business off your bank account, which is not a great way to build a long-term business. Chatbots and CRM automation will help you with customer interactions and really don't add any significant overhead costs. And of course, workflow automation, task managers will help your team work better together, will help you move things through projects more efficiently. And then, when it gets to a more mature, small to medium-sized business, scaling and advantage is always sort of on your mind. You can streamline your supply chain. You can track your inventory. You can do planning for operations. Data analytics become more and more important the more customers that you gain. So you want to be able to identify trends early. You want to mitigate risks that are shaping up. And obviously, you're always looking for new revenue opportunities. So, these data analytic tools can certainly help you do that and allow you, again, to make those decisions. Innovation, whether it's in product or services, or how you do things. When you sort of bake AI into what you do, you can learn to be more adaptable and certainly find more competitive advantage, especially in evolving markets, because things do move quickly today. So I think it was great, Leslie. I believe you said you're starting to play and try it, and that's the most important thing, and really the most significant message that I want to share with you today is you got to jump in and start trying it, and then find out what happens. It doesn't always work out. Again, I don't know why I got another example from Japan, but this is where it is. So there's a hotel in Japan called Henna Hotel. And the translation in English means strange hotel. So this happened a few years back. They were listed as the first AI-run hotel. They replaced the human front desk staff with AI robots. The robots would check guests in and out, but then things got really weird, apparently. So the robots were making a lot of mistakes, like they just misunderstood what the guests might have requested. Certainly that led to customer frustration, longer wait times at the front desk, calling for room service, or they needed help with something. The AI didn't always understand it. It was really struggling to process different accents or unusual requests. And if you've ever either worked at a hotel or watched any movies that were focused in a hotel, there are a lot of strange requests that come up at hotels. AI couldn't quite make sense of it all. So they were just malfunctioning all over the place. And the hotel thought, the hell with this, let's bring the humans back. And they replaced the AI robots with the humans. So, I just want to remind us that AI is a tool. It is not a replacement for us. It doesn't replace empathy and judgment. It doesn't replace our core values. It doesn't replace the way that we want our business to operate, how we want to engage with our customers, how we want to build and nurture and secure relationships. That's up to you. But AI can help you through a lot of the work that's required to make that really possible. So I asked in the pre-session questionnaire to think about some of the things that you've done. And I'm curious if anybody has used AI and actually learned something that it didn't do what you wanted it to, or you learned that you learned a few things by using it. If anybody wants to share an example, I'd love to hear it. I also would remind our Boundless team, your examples would be great to hear too. So if anybody has anything to share, I can just see if you click off your mic. Nassim.
I'd be happy to start. So I think I can answer both questions, but I'll start with the one that it didn't do, because I was actually organizing some addresses into an Excel sheet. And instead of going through like every person's address and adding it, I thought maybe AI can help me with that. And so I asked it to research these companies and put the address like on a field, the postal code in another field, and so on. And it just said, I can't do that. Like I can do 2, but I can't do like the full list of addresses. So that's one. And then the one thing that I learned from it, which is really nice, I was curious to know how movies were made. So I just asked it, like asking a professional, and it was a really informative conversation, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I think it's great, Nassim, to share sort of both sides of the story. There are limitations. There are things that it can do really well. There are things that different platforms do better than others. We'll talk a little bit about that too. And there are specific tool sets that you can get that are not like the general platforms, but are purpose-built, and they can do a better job at some of those things, like preparing the spreadsheets and things like that. But you did bring up a great story, is that there's really ways to learn from each other. Asking it about things that you're wondering about that would otherwise take a lot of websites to go through, sort of tedious researching stuff that doesn't really just get at the answer that you're after. I use it frequently for things that I need to know something quickly, or when it comes to a spreadsheet, for example, because on the occasions that I'm still building them, I want to know certain formulas, or I'd like it to be I'd like the result that I'm looking for to show up based on checking a few different parts of the spreadsheet. And so, I'll explain what I'm after, where things are, and it can provide me with the formula that I can just copy and paste. And it's like, okay, that one worked. So that saves me a lot of time of trial and error, but it also doesn't always work. And sometimes I'm like, okay, this isn't going to happen. So I have to find other ways to get at some of those more complex answers. But the thing about it is, just like Nassim, is you just got to engage and go for it. And you'll find out as you go what's working, what's not, and what you need to do differently. Denise, I see your mic is off.
Yes, I actually just wanted to share my experience around the importance of prompt engineering, and how, you can start with one question, and the result that you get may not be exactly what you need, but then you can ask again and again and again. And the more that you can really elucidate what you want, or think about what you want out of it, the better the results are. And also, Morry, you mentioned using different specific platforms, or certain platforms being better for certain things. I found that I tried using ChatGPT versus Jasper AI for, I was trying to create a table of contents for a sales playbook. And they came up with very vastly different results. And I was able to kind of take the information that I garnered from both of those and use, what made most sense for our company to create a table of contents that worked for us in order to build our sales playbook.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I think I might be mentioning Jasper in my list of possible things for people to check out. But that's it. And Denise, thank you, because that's a great point. So, the prompting that you use absolutely matters in what you're going to get out of it. Now, I'm not, I didn't prepare any slide or anything about prompting, but I want to share with you that I tend not to be very open-ended or short when I'm doing something that requires more thinking, more research, more complexity, or something that's very specific and purposeful. I could write, and I'll start on a Word doc or a notepad, a paragraph, a page, 2 pages to explain what I'm after, what I'm working on, what it's trying to do, what information I need, how that information is supposed to correlate together, really go in depth. Think of it as, creating a briefing that you would to another person to say, here's the project that I want you to work on, or here's the specific task that I want you to do. And by spending that kind of time and being in depth about it, you'll find, and what I find is that the results are much better, much more usable. The iteration or the dialogue I carry on with the AI after the first draft gets me to that answer faster. Now I'm going deeper into refinement and specifics than trying to get it to understand what I wanted in the first place. So your prompting is going to make a huge difference on the value that you get out of the AI that you're using. So in some examples, you'll get to see some tools that it'll say, just tell me, these 3 things, and I will put a whole presentation together for you. Those are not going to be very good. What you want is to be able to get something smart, intelligent, useful, and completely aligned with what you're after. That takes more work. So there is more engagement on your part with AI to get to the answer that you're looking for. So let's switch over and talk about a few examples. So 7 cents. Now, I'm not saying I'm recommending all of these. I'm just sharing. Here are just some examples of some of the software and tools that you can use that are affordable, accessible, and simple enough. So 7 cents is a marketing tool. It helps small businesses with their email marketing campaigns based on behavior and the engagement they have with you. They say that their small business customers get 20% or more increase in email engagement after implementing their AI-driven send time optimization tools, meaning get the right message to the right people at the right time, and you're going to see a better result. These are some of the ways that, as a marketer like Denise, or as a company who is trying to do some of their own marketing, these can help you work smarter and more effectively. But I still do recommend that you work with a marketing firm who has the expertise, because the thing about these tools, like all tools, is the more you understand how to use them, the better they're going to perform for you. And the reason that you understand how to use them is because you already have expertise that so that your competitor doesn't have. So put that expertise to good use. Clara, still in beta, is a scheduling assistant. So it can help do your meeting coordination and appointment settings. So in this example, a real estate firm, which you can imagine has so much hassle trying to set up appointments all the time, and then there are changes and it's back and forth. Are you available, at this time? Or I think any of us that have experienced working with within or with companies where we have multiple people we're trying to coordinate for a meeting, like today. These are the things that can take that problem off of our hands and figure out the availabilities and then book it. We just give it the parameters. So this real estate company saved over 10 hours a week just by reducing that back and forth time that it takes to actually book something where everybody's available. Another one is Find Mine. So this is a product recommendation engine for e-com. There was this a clothing retailer, a boutique clothing retailer. It implemented these product recommendations. So instead of just showing random items, the AI analyzed the customer behavior, what customer was looking at, and suggested outfit combinations. So it's not just about, this shirt, but if you're looking at this shirt, these pants and this sport jacket might look really good with it. Anyways, they saw a 15% boost in sales, which just makes sense. I mean, it's the same reason why when you go into a clothing store and you have a really great sales representative greet you, and instead of just showing you, what's on sale and these specials, they actually stop and ask, so I see that you're looking at, these suits. What are you using it for? Are you in and out of the car all day, or are you in meetings? And it's like, well, yeah, I'm in and out of the car all day. And then she can say, well, that's a really nice suit, but it wrinkles really fast. So you might not look very sharp by the end of the day. We do have other suits that are also a beautiful cut and nice fine materials. but they hold together really well. And so you'll look as sharp at the end of the day as you do at the beginning. Would you like to see them? That's the experience we're mimicking using AI. And you just know that you're going to walk out of that store having spent way more money than you wanted to. And then we have another one called Replica. So, we hear a lot of talk about chatbots, and everybody is using them or finding ways to implement them. So this one is specifically set up actually for wellness and sort of mental health therapy and stuff. So the story on this one is a solo therapist started using this chatbot to provide this sort of the daily mental health check-ins for clients. So instead of those kind of repetitive questions that she would have to do herself all the time, the chatbot handled that stuff and gave her more time for meaningful client interactions. It didn't replace the therapist, but it enhanced her ability to serve her clients better and more effectively. And that's the kind of thing, as you're looking at, the implementation of chatbots in your business, is think about how it's going to help us do better things for our customers rather than take over all of the interaction. We're not trying to give it up. We're trying to create more efficiency and effectiveness by getting AI to do, the basic stuff that you don't need me on the line to answer. But at some point in the conversation or in the relationship, that's when you do want to talk to me, and that's when I want to talk to you. So that's the idea of utilizing chatbots in a more effective way. I'll just stop to see if there are any questions or anything about that now. All right, I will take that as a note. But I am interested actually, does anybody already have chatbots integrated into their workflows or into their website or their phone, any engagement platforms, or are you even thinking about it? Okay, doesn't look like anybody's up for chatbots yet, but that time will come. Okay, some do's and don'ts. Well, as I said, there's a takeaway, and I think Carly will provide that to everybody. But here's just a basic question. Has anybody read through the terms and conditions of any AI things platforms that they've used? Or even have you ever done that? Sorry, have you ever looked through it in your own website? So Janice is like never, which is definitely pretty common. Ashley has. So Ashley, can I ask you to share why did you read through? Because they're long, they're tedious. So why did you do it, and what did you learn out of that?
Morry, I'm trying to remember. I don't do it every time.
Yeah.
I think it was initially probably prior to you and I having a chat many months ago. Just sort of trying to alleviate some of my fears of putting any ideas about my brand or anything that I might otherwise want to keep private on the platform. And of course, after you and I had a discussion, I felt much better. Just in terms of knowing what information to give for the sake of the tool learning about the company and the brand versus anything that might be proprietary that I wouldn't want to share.
Perfect. And that's awesome. And I think that, that's really important for all of us to keep in mind and recognize is well, let's just jump into it. actually. So these are some of the do's. So I do urge you to read through the privacy policies. Just make sure the tool is doing what you want it to do and not doing what you don't want it to do. So it might say that it will retain or share your data in some way. So that allows you to make a decision whether you want to play with it or not, or what you want to share with it or not. Definitely look to use AI platforms that have encryption and security controls available. Make sure, as Ashley pointed out, that you can anonymize your sensitive data. You can still use AI to analyze customer behavior and accounts and finances and even health information, all of that. Just make sure there is no data that you're sharing that would attach a name or a contact or your company to some of that confidential information, right? You're using it to analyze and understand it better, and you don't need to have identifiable information when you do that. When it comes to your intellectual property, there are things that you want to use AI for and to validate or check or research, but you wouldn't put everything up on it, at least not on some of the the free versions where you can't opt out of any real data sharing options on that. Make sure when you can opt out, you do. And then just have a look again through their privacy policies if they adhere to any of the accepted standards and regulations. And then this last point is kind of cool when you think about, for those of you who have companies a little larger than just you, and as soon as you have a second person, in fact, make sure that you have a policy that explains what everybody in your company is allowed to use AI for, how they're allowed to use it, and what they're not allowed to put in it. Some of the don'ts, which sort of similar to what the do's are, just the other way of putting it, just don't input your confidential business information and anything that really ties you, business, or your people to the information that you're sharing. Don't assume that AI is private by default, especially the free ones. They do collect and store data unless specifically stated. Paid versions, many of them allow you to opt out. And again, I think if I didn't say it earlier, many of these paid versions are not very expensive. So it's not like you're spending $500 or $1,000 a month. It might be $20 or $30 a month. I definitely like to use AI for legal and financial research and pulling provisions for contracts and things like that. But as I stress with everybody, the final versions are not coming off of AI. You're going to take the work that you've done and go to your lawyer and go, this is what I'm thinking of. This is what I'd like to do. So instead of spending 10 hours of payment on your lawyer, you're asking for 2 or 3 hours of their time because you've done more of the work and you've prepared the documents that you want them to review. Also, as I stated earlier, don't just upload your customer list or your signed contracts blindly. Black out or remove the vital information that would connect to an individual. And then, don't ignore their privacy and security practices. Do read them so that you can decide how you want to work with them. All right, let's get into some use cases. And let me just move some stuff out of the way. So, there are many places that we can use AI for our businesses. One of the challenges is really there are so many options. So, even the pre-session exercise that was handed out, I asked you to think about how you would use it. That's really important. You need to figure out, what do you really want help with? And then start to do the research on the tools that can help you get that done. If it's customer data, then you might be looking for tools, that could personalize content or track trends. If it's about workflow automation that you want help with, then look for ones that can, connect your apps together, organize data, help with project management. There's a lot of different things that you can do in finance. It can automate some bookkeeping, can help you with cash flow planning. There are really very few limits that AI can be helpful for. In fact, there's, I don't know if anybody's heard of this. I hadn't actually until a while ago, but in December of 2019, which we might think of as the before times, we really didn't hear about COVID-19, but there was an AI system, it's called Blue Dot. And it had actually sent out an alert in December 2019 because it flagged an outbreak of a strange pneumonia-like illness in Wuhan, China. This was days before the World Health Organization made any kind of announcement. The way it works, and the way it worked was it just scans, like 100,000 plus news sources and airline tickets in real time, and it looks for unusual disease patterns. So it detected an anomaly coming out of the Wuhan hospital reports. And based on airline ticket sales, it predicted that the virus would first travel to Bangkok, Seoul, and Taipei, which apparently it did. So, while we were all wondering what the hell is going on, there was already a trajectory for how this thing was unfolding. It's really an amazing feat to be able to crunch that much data that quickly and put the correlations together to reveal something that we couldn't ourselves see that easily. And that's, to me, like a powerful example of how we can use AI ourselves for our own business needs. Again, it's not replacing human intuition in decision making, but it can crunch the data and put 2 and 2 together in ways that we might not be able to, or it might take us a lot longer and a lot more challenging to get there. So we can use that to inform us, to get smarter, and to be faster in making decisions than, in this case, our competitors might be. So in terms of understanding customer data, there are a few of many. We talked a little bit about ChatGPT. It can generate personalized content. It can automate responses. It can help you with brainstorming. It can make all communication and marketing more efficient. Google Analytics, as probably all know, tracks website trends, but it also analyzes user behavior, and it can predict customer actions to improve your digital marketing strategies. HubSpot can map your customers' journeys, personalize interactions. It automates marketing campaigns, does lead nurturing and conversion. These are all great tools, 3 among many, that you can utilize quickly and in some cases very inexpensively. HubSpot can get expensive, but there's also free versions that you can use, and there are tiered versions that you can step up to. In terms of finance and sales, I've highlighted 3 here. Xero is a tool for financial reporting. It'll do cash flow forecasting. It'll reconcile your invoices. Basically helps you manage your accounting with sort of minimal manual effort. QuickBooks That's great for bookkeeping. It'll categorize expenses. It can also automate invoices, provide financial insights for better business decision making. And then there's Salesforce, Einstein. And this is great for customer relationship management. It will actually predict sales opportunities, personalize the marketing for that opportunity, and automate the customer service responses as well. In terms of cost, it sort of goes up from left to right. Salesforce can become very expensive, and it's super sophisticated, but at some point, I hope you're all ready for it. In terms of innovation, Notion is a great tool for content creation, summarizing notes, can help you organize ideas, just make it easier to manage projects and workflows. Tome, this is a tool for creating visually engaging presentations, and it'll do storytelling slides. It'll generate content and layouts automatically. And Jasper, I think Ashley might have mentioned, or maybe it was Denise, it can write blogs, ads, marketing content. It's got pretty much good or high quality text that you can set up to match your brand tone and your voice, which is pretty cool. So this gets to what I was saying earlier, is that from the general platform level, like ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity, these are ones that are more narrowly purpose-built tools to help you accomplish your specific goals, and generally do a better job of it and have more, sort of data confidence and things that go along with it. And in terms of workflows, Zapier is great. It connects apps together, automates repetitive tasks, makes workflow, can travel more efficiently without you having to get in the way of it. I know of an ad agency that uses Zapier to manage the early stage communications for anybody, that comes in off of the website interested in finding out more. So, and then it follows up after the sales representative has a conversation. They sort of zapped together the process, and so the sales and conversion strategy that they've kind of built out is more than half executed just automatically, saving time for the people that would otherwise be doing the work to actually be engaged in meetings and calls and getting out there and making business happen. Airtable is a cool one. It'll help you with your database management. It'll categorize, analyze, and summarize data. It helps teams track their projects and their processes. And Trello will help you with task organization, gives you suggestions. It'll do automation. It'll also help prioritize and streamline project management. So AI, we want it, we need it. There's a lot of uses for it, but again, we got to figure out what you want it for and what you really need it for. It just, as a game changer, as we talked about right at the beginning, it's really changing things in a significant way everywhere. If you've never had the opportunity to be in a self-driving car, it's disconcerting at first, and then you realize, wow, this thing is actually pretty good. In fact, some of the AI-powered safety features in cars that we have now have reduced rear-end collisions by as much as 50% in some vehicles. So that's pretty amazing. Bloomberg, one of the world's preeminent financial resource companies, and their bulletins and articles, apparently over a third of them are written by AI, and they're spot on and very accurate because of the way that they've implemented AI for themselves. Even Amazon and Yelp have incorporated AI, not just to show us what products and things we might want to buy, but to identify and remove fake reviews. Because really, they want trusted reviews. And so these are tools that are helping to do that. There's another little story. JP Morgan, gigantic multi-billion-dollar organization. They think they have all the resources and smarts in the world. They had signed a contract with an investment partner and later discovered there was an error in the contract that was signed, and it cost them $300 million on this deal. So they thought, that's not cool. We got to do something about that. So they incorporated this AI software called Coin. It's a contract intelligence software. And it basically, they went back and they reviewed everything, thousands of legal documents. It took almost no time. It had discovered multiple contract errors, which they were able to correct, saved them millions and millions of dollars that they would have otherwise lost or were at risk. And what would have taken humans thousands of hours to go through was done almost instantly, without all the additional costs of the lawyers doing that. So AI isn't just about working faster, though. It's about catching mistakes that cost you money, whether it's financial errors or miscalculations or forecasting mistakes. It's a great tool to help you find what's wrong, not just what to do. So I'm curious if you or if anybody has some things that they would like to consider using AI for. How about sharing that with us? Sorry for all the things going up and down. Does anybody have any particular topics or things that they would like or need AI to help with that you want to share? All right, then let's just get to the next stage, which is evaluating. When you are going to look and decide what you're going to do, you got to ask yourself some basic questions, right? Does this solve a real problem for me? Does it integrate with the systems that I use today? Is there a learning curve for me or my team? How does it handle privacy and security? What's the accuracy rate of its output? As we kind of indicated, not every AI tool is worth adopting. And it's not just using AI for the sake of it. It is to find something that genuinely makes your business better, more efficient, more profitable, more meaningful, and useful to your customer base. So when you are evaluating what to use, figure out what's right for you. It's also great to figure out who on your team is going to use it, who will adopt it, who won't, and why. And then research all the options. Compare the features, the costs, how things will integrate into your operations. Make sure you know the privacy and data security and its accuracy rates. And then basically it's about giving it a shot. Like Ashley says, just start playing with it. The challenge isn't what AI is going to take away from us. It's really developing our skills to work more effectively with it. And it's up to you to decide how you're going to explore it. And that is the end of this part of the show.
Wonderful. Thank you, Morry, for taking us through that. If anyone has any questions for Morry, we have a couple of minutes to address them. So if you want to either put your hand up through Zoom or put the question in the chat, we're happy to voice them on your behalf.
First off, can you hear me speaking now?
We can.
Hi, Eric.
Perfect. Well, hi, Morry. just as a challenge for getting to play with it and learn how to do it, use chat GBT to explore whatever it is you want. So for example, you could say, acting as a business consultant, it allows us to develop a better digital ability. What would you recommend we do in order to do certain particular functions, and let it start priming you with what's out there and what it can do and everything else. And one of my big insights is I was always wondering, why are they calling it chat GBT? And then I realized that it's designed so that you can interact with it, as you said earlier, right? And I've even said to it on occasion, what a bunch of hooey. Why don't you blah, 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 blah. It's extremely polite when it comes back and it goes, no, sorry, you're absolutely right. Let me dig into that a little further. So it's a great mechanism to look at, work at. And another way to look at it is, in this world of information everywhere, a lot of times we'll go to a trade show that specializes in a particular topic. And as you're going through all the booths, you're asking people what their specialties are and who can answer certain questions that you might have or who you can work with. Well, with ChatGPT, you tell it that. You give it a persona that says, you are an expert in the field of such and such, such and such. You specialize in this and you do that. With that in mind, and then you can specify the problem for it, and it will kind of constrain it and give you a far better answer.
Yeah, absolutely. The general purpose platforms like ChatGPT, Claude from Anthropic, Perplexity are three that I use and skip around between them for different purposes. And also to compare answers or have them kind of elaborate on some aspects of information that I got from one, and I feel like I want to get another perspective. This is really like the great way of working with it. And as Eric pointed out, you can work with a general platform in terms of what you're working on, what you're looking to achieve, what kinds of tools are available, and can you please do the research for me and tell me what are the sort of the top 3 or 5 or 10 tools that do these types of tasks that have high reviews, are under $100 a month, and whatever the criteria that you set, and it will do that research for you. That is such a huge time saver, and that's a great way to be able to use the some of the general platform AI tools that are out there.
And if I can add just one more example that I had, which has nothing to do with information and it has to do with marketing yourself. When people get to a certain point with their websites, or what image they put on LinkedIn, do I get a photographer? Do I bring them in? Do I spend the money on that? I have to book the time to do that and get dressed up and all that. Well, there's an AI bot called Momo, M-O-M-O, and you go to it and you give it 8 to 12 pictures of just your face, but hopefully in different situations, like the light coming from one side, coming from the other, you looking up, looking down and stuff. And then it gives you all these things. They'll say, do you want some business pictures? Do you want some pictures of opulence? Yeah, and it'll put you in front of a Learjet. But it's absolutely amazing that it creates these pictures that you can actually use on your websites and stuff. Unbelievable. And it does it in about 9 minutes. So it's like, so you don't have to book the time or pay for the people to do the photographs. Just as long as you've got a bunch of photographs of just your face, that you can make that work.
Cool. Thanks, Eric. Any other questions or things that we can share with each other?
Sure, Morry. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I can wait.
It's Janice. Nice to meet everyone. What I'd like to add is, when your back is to the wall, you're rushing and you're pressed to meet a deadline. I don't think that is the right time to start dipping your toe and start exploring something brand new that could be intimidating. So for example, I was on the phone with a friend of mine and we started to play with Perplexity. And we had a great time connecting. And it was, oh, I'm going to put in, and it was a legal document. And we're going to ask for it in the tone of legalese. And we were just like playing together. And it came through with a beautiful, very formal legal document. And then we said, well, make it in the tone of Madman. You know, like I want to see this this document in the tone of Dan Draper. And it did a great job.
Mhm.
And so we were playing, I was connecting with someone that I hadn't, you know, connected with in a long time. And it was great fun and we were helping each other along. So to have fun with it, to explore when you're not stressed out and time crunched, I think is important.
100%. Just like Ashley was sharing earlier, play around, get to know this stuff, and then you'll learn how to use it and where to use it and when to use it. Like anything, if you're under a lot of pressure and it's got to be ready in the next 15 minutes, you might have waited too long. Seda, I think you wanted to join in.
Yes, hello everyone, and thanks, Morry, for all the info. Very, very helpful. I have a quick question. Is there a full suite of like AI tools that can help with basic admin and operational tasks? I mean, I'm familiar with some of the AI tools. It's just sometimes it gets annoying when it's not all in one system. And I'm tempted to just kind of build my own. But I don't know. Are you familiar with any like AI, like just a suite of AI tools that's kind of all in one system?
So the short answer is no, I'm not, because I haven't used it or seen it or had the need to look at it for that purpose. But I will tell you that it could very well be out there. And you, as we talked earlier, we can we can work with ChatGPT, Claude, or Perplexity and explain what we're after, and for it to do the research and find us some options. But if you recall the example that I had for the marketing company where they used Zapier to connect a few of the pieces together, and it works quite seamlessly. It actually, they were able to establish a workflow for like, 2 or 3 different tools to get something done and out the door without wasting anybody's time. So it's all doable, but I'm afraid you'll have to do the research.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Any other comments or anything? Or we
I had a
wrap
quick question,
up?
Morry. I just had a quick question for you. Are there any AI tools that you're looking forward to using with your own business?
So for my, I've been a consultant now for a long time. If I had these AI tools through all of the different experiences that I've had over the years, it would have been really cool, to be able to utilize them. It's just, I'm reminded actually of a discussion I had a while back where I was talking with the CEO and another person who had been at one of the highest levels of business leadership that you can attain. And the discussion was around how do you spend your time, like working time. And when you're working at a company and you're at the beginning, to mid management levels, you're doing a lot of stuff. And that's what it's like when you're starting a company. Even though you're the CEO, you're also the person who empties the garbage can. So you end up still doing a lot of stuff. Pardon me. as you get to higher levels in a corporation, you find that you're doing far less stuff and you're doing more engagement with others. So you're not doing the work, they're doing the work, and they're coming to you and sharing their ideas or sharing the research or, providing options or recommendations. And your job is, to be able to get at the sort of the key elements of what's at stake and provide guidance and nurture and then make decisions. So I've had the good fortune of moving up to the place in my career where I'm doing hardly any stuff work, and it's all about engagement and working, with others. So the tools that I use are that I find get me what I want are Elicit, which is a research tool, and the 3 platforms that I talked about in terms of general. And I will occasionally look at something else, but I'm not building the marketing anymore. I'm not really putting presentations and slide decks together anymore. And on the occasion that I do, it's not a big deal. So I'm not the best example in that, but I can tell you that I use it extensively to help me through the work and providing me the resources that I need to get the work done so that I'm ready to be sharp when it comes to my engagement work that I do. Plus, it's also really good at putting recipes together. So you can be very specific about the tastes, the things that you like and what you don't want, and it'll really come up with some great options.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Have to go check that out for the recipe side things. Thank you, Morry, for taking us through those tools for AI. Really appreciate all your expertise. Again, we'll share the resources in Morry's slides after the call. So thanks, Morry, for your time. So as we wrap up our session here, just wanted to give everyone a thank you. Thank you for all the facilitators for sharing your expertise, and again to NRC IRAP for partnering with us and their continued support through the Rhyze Up program. We do really appreciate your feedback on our events, so you'll see a link to complete a brief survey when you close your browser with us. So I'll ask you to take a couple moments to complete that form for us. We'll also be sending out a link again in the email with those resources, so keep an eye out for it. And when we have our video transcribed with the French captions, we'll also send you a link when that is posted on our YouTube channel. So once again, on behalf of everyone at Boundless, Nassim and I want to thank you all for participating in our Rhyze Up program, for joining us today. Also wanted to give everyone a happy early International Women's Day. Hope you can take care, and we will be in touch. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a good one.
Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.